Hi, it's Dr. Steve from Misericordia University, and welcome to the video Advanced Actions in ActivInspire for the Promethean Board. This is part of our course TED121, Educational Technology. In this video, let's do two things. Number one, let's create an activity in which we create a container, or I'll call it an answer area, where students can come up to the board and drag an answer in to that answer area, that container. And if it's correct, then the answer will stay in there, and maybe they'll be rewarded with the reward sound. If they're incorrect, then that answer will bounce out and it will return to its original position and not stay in the container. Now, there are different procedures for one specific answer, in other words, one right answer, or two specific objects, in other words, two or more right answers. Then, second, let's look at the easy process of creating interactive class activities and embedding them right within the flipchart page. Now let's take a look at a more advanced technique to provide interactivity for your students. And let's look at the mechanics and again also some design aspects as well. So what I'd like to do is create an answer area. Now in this case I've made a very simple, just a shape, just a box. I've got three answers. Right now they're very generic. Answer 1, 2, and 3. So let's demo it first. If the student selects answer 2, places it in the box, it bounces it out. Rejects it. Answer 3 bounces out. If answer 1 goes in, it's the correct answer in this case, it will go in, be accepted, and then a cool sound, a reward sound, will play. So how does this work? Well, let's take a look at it. And I'll move out of the simple text box or object box. Let's look at a graphic in this case. This will be the answer area. So the answer area, the answer, I'm going to select it, and I'm going to move to the property browser. When I go to the property browser, I want to make sure I open the container feature. I'm going to close these other pieces just so it's not confusing. When I go into the container area, it says it can contain nothing, anything, which in this case, if I have specific responses available, that's not going to help anything. So I'm not going to say anything, but I could say a specific object, or I could say keywords, which means multiple objects. So in this case, let's do one specific object. When I say specific object, now this becomes enabled, this next piece. It says contain what object. I'll click on the three little dots, and it shows me every object here. So which animal can live in a pond? I'm going to click on the very first, in this case, you see the frog, and I'll say OK. So now the answer area has that information as to how to make that decision. Now, contains words, that's for multiple, so that's disabled. Completely contained, that's a good idea. Keep that, because that means when this object is dragged in, it has to be all the way in and not like partially dragged in. It's got to be all the way in. Do you want a reward sound? If so, say true. If not, just leave it blank and leave it false. And then if you want a reward sound, then you have to go and specify one. And you notice that ActivInspire comes with a number of sounds available. So I'm going to go to, maybe I'm going to choose nature. And no, maybe not nature. That's rain sounds and so on. Let me do some type of an effect. So I'm going to choose a chime to have a positive sound, a happy sound. Okay, and then the only thing that we don't answer here, we don't respond to this final one, which is return if not contained. In other words, if it's the wrong answer. That is reserved for the responses. So right now, when I click on this answer area, all of this information, except for this last one, is completed. So this answer area knows how to decide and which one single answer to allow in here. Now, I'm going to go to each of the individual responses, and all I have to do is, this top part, this has already been responded to in the answer area, so skip that. Return if not contained, turn that to true. And that simply means if I go to drag the frog in, if the frog is the wrong answer, it should bounce out, it should be rejected. Now here's a little trick. Instead of doing this 3 times, I'm going to drag, highlight around, and notice I'm being kind of a little more close with what I'm doing here. I'm not being very generous with the highlight because I could easily, by accident, have dragged this other piece into there. I only want these 3 answers, or possible responses. Return if not contained, turn them all to true at one time. Okay, I'll click outside of this, and now we're ready to go. If the user drags in an incorrect answer, it goes out. If they drag in the correct answer, there's our positive sound, and it stays in. And by the way, when you're using this with the board, if you save it, it will save the position of these items. So we'll have to drag that back out if I'm going to save it again, especially if I'm just testing it now. I'll definitely want to test it, but I'll also want to drag it back out. Now, what happens if we have more than one correct response? So what we have to do here is, same type of thing. We have to go into this answer area, which in this case is just going to be a box, which is appropriate in this case. We're going to drag these different objects into the box. Let's find the vowels. Okay, but there are also consonants here. So I'm going to start off, notice it's trying to look at the fill and the outline because it's a box. I'm going to close those just for clarity now. What can this box contain? Well, specific object is 1. Keywords means multiple. Okay, so object, single, that's disabled, contains words. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to come up with words. Now, there are 2 schools of thought when you're designing this. First of all, the users, the students, will never see this. It's behind the scenes. But in terms of designing this so that it will work in a robust fashion for you as a teacher going forward, you could say this box can contain the letter A, the letter E, the letter U, and sometimes Y. So we could put all of those letters down here if we wanted. So if I wanted to go in that route, I would say add a word, and I would say A, and then I would simply add that in by hitting enter. Now, I'm going to remove that for a moment because another way I could do this is I could say add a word and make it vowel. I'll hit enter. Now the word vowel, any of these answers that, possible responses that have the word vowel associated with them, that's their identification, all the vowels will come in. So again, design thoughts, we have to take a look at what is the best way to design this for your use so it's robust, because as a teacher, you may want to use this same setup, but then change maybe the parameters of what designates the correct response. So in this case, I'm going to keep the word vowel. Now, if I wanted to, I could go down and say I'll keep completely contained, reward sound, and location if I wanted to. For now, I'm going to skip that. Especially with multiple answers, a quick design point, it will kind of lose its excitement and motivational factor for the students if, while they drag 4 correct answers in here, they keep hearing the reward sound. Reward sound should maybe be for a little more special event. One important correct answer or something of that nature, not just answer, 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 right. So I'm not going to use a reward sound here. Okay, let's get back to mechanics. When I go up to here, I find the letter A is a vowel. Now I'm going to skip all this outline and all of this. Let's go up to the identification. When I move up to identification, it has named what this text box is, but the answer area will not look at that. The answer area is going to look for keywords. Now you recall a moment ago, I typed the word vowel. So what keyword do I want to match here? In this case, the word vowel. Now be careful that you say the word vowel or vowels, or if I put letter A and E, whatever it is, type it exactly as it appears in the answer box. Because if they don't match exactly, it's not going to accept it. It's going to reject it. So this is a vowel. So I'm going to go and quickly do, I'll just do 2 of the vowels for now. But I would do that to all of the vowels in here. So I just go in and say identification. This is a vowel. Got it. Now, for these letters, because I use the word vowel as the nomenclature, I'm going to go in and say consonant. Oh, careful now, because that's a big word. Maybe I'm going to say cons, because I don't want to take a chance that I'm going to misspell it. One misspelling will bomb this whole activity for the students. It will be giving them false information. Now, in this case, because it's a vowel piece, I could go in and I can certainly say the keyword here, this is a vowel. But we know that this could also be a consonant. So I'm also going to set this up with my keyword for consonant because, again, I want to design this in a robust fashion. Maybe down the road I'm going to use this same setup. I'll copy and paste this and duplicate it, but at that point I want to use something else. Maybe this will now be the consonant box, or it could be letters that can function both as vowels and consonant box. Now for that one, design-wise, I would probably use a reward sound because that's kind of like a, on Jeopardy, that would be the more expensive answer here. It would be the something that is worthy of something more. And just to show that it'll work, the A will go in, and I didn't complete all of these. And this is interesting because I think I completed the B, if I'm not mistaken. Notice how there's a little error happening here. Oh, I could tell you why the error happened. Because I forgot to go in and say all of these responses, return if not contained, true. But sometimes, and I want to point this out, sometimes when you do this, now notice that it did reject that. And it's not going to find that word here, so it is rejecting it. But sometimes when you're designing your screen, maybe you'll drag the wrong answer in. Instead of rejecting it, it seems to have run amok here, and it will accept it. In my experience with the software, that's a little glitch, and sometimes it will happen when you're in the design mode. When you save it, and you clear out the cache, and you reopen it, for example, in class, live, to use it, I've never seen that, experience that happen again. So if you have an answer that should be rejected, and it's not rejected, just drag it back out, save it, close it. When you reopen, it's going to work just fine. Now, to round out, let's take a look at doing this in a little different fashion now. Instead of a box, I can use a graphic. So this graphic now becomes the answer area. So I'm going to take the answer area, and just as a quick review, one object or multiple objects. So I'm going to say multiple, then what are the words? So I'm going to show this example because this, when we talk about designing this, and again, this is not something that the user will see, but the teacher will see this behind the scenes. When we say, what are the key words? I could design this in one of two ways, as with the vowels and consonants. I could come up with a word that refers to the fish or pond dwellers. So I could have a word like pond as a keyword, and I'll have all three of these creatures get that word. And maybe this creature over here, the cow, will now be a land keyword. But that's not going to be very robust. What I might want to do is, I might want to go in and say what keywords, and I'll do the second version of this. I can go in and say a frog would be appropriate. A turtle would be appropriate. I'm being careful how I spell them. And a fish would be appropriate. The cow would not be appropriate. So now the answer area is complete, unless I wanted to say a reward sound, but I won't take the time to do that right now. I'm going to highlight all of these possible responses, and all of them get this very last piece. Say true. In other words, they'll all bounce out if they're not appropriate. Now, for each of these, I have to go up and give them a keyword identification. So keywords, in this case, instead of saying pond, I'm going to say this is the turtle. And I'll go over here and say this is the frog. So this way, if I swap out this answer area down the road and put a barn here, graphic, then I can say the barn doesn't hold land animals, but rather the barn holds keyword cow. And all I would have to do is, I would not have to change any parameters on these possible answers, these animals, but rather I would have to just change the parameters up here. What keyword or words will this accept? Now, one final possibility, we could have two possible answer areas. So I'm going to take the time to develop this because I'm just going to do the same procedure that I did. But realize I would just have to respond the container for here, the container for here, and say what it's going to accept. And in this case, I could say one of two things. Rocky, and up here I'd have to say identify this up here, which is keywords identification, that this is a rocky planet, rocky, gas, gas. Or I could do the opposite. I could say this answer area will accept the keyword, because this is multiple objects now that it can take. And I'm going to say the keyword is, it'll take Venus and the keyword Mars, and the same thing over here. And don't forget to highlight all of the possible answers and say true to return if they're incorrect. And finally, go into each one of these and place the appropriate keyword. Another great thing that Active Software allows a teacher to do is to create interactive activities, either for use with the whole class on the Promethean board or to send to individual students. In order to access these activities and create them, you have to first start by opening the dashboard from the View menu of Active Software. Then select one of the many activities that are available. After creating, then you're going to be able to save it. You can actually play it immediately, but definitely want to save it. You can then embed it, and then you can also send it to your students. When you click into the dashboard, then simply select Activities, and from there you'll be able to choose from a host of different activities that are available. Now, when you're in an activity, that's where you can save it, you can play it immediately, and this is also where you can add it to the page. So this is where you embed these activities right into the flipchart page itself. So if you've already created an activity, saved it, and closed it, realize you have to go back in and edit in order to get to this place where it says Add to the page. Let's see the steps involved to create an interactive activity. First of all, I'm going to go up to the View menu in ActivInspire. I'm going to locate the dashboard. From the dashboard, I can select Activities. And I can also find my recent flipcharts and activities over here in the left pane. I'm going to click on Activities, and from here you can see that we have a whole host of different activities from which to choose. From here I can also open one that I've already created in case I want to edit it further. So I'm going to say Open, and I'm going to find my flipchart browsers activity. Notice that the name of the file is something.activity. So I'm going to open this, and this is going to be a matching game. So right here we can play it, but I'm going to go in and edit this. Notice but I can also take it up to the full screen here. I'm going to click Edit, and notice that here we can save it, play it, and also add it to the page. So just to point that out, here I've already typed in some of these items. So the page browser and its match is to navigate to another page, the resource browser, and so on. So I've got 4 so far. I'm going to click into a number 5, and I'm going to say the voting browser, just to show you how easy it is to do. Notice as I start on number 5, a possible number 6 appears, and that will keep happening. So the voting browser, I'll say activate a class question. That's what the voting browser does. It controls the clickers or the student response systems. And I could go down and I can play with changing the background and the colors and so on. When I'm finished, I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to go out and I'm going to play it. So here is the one side of the matching, here is the other, and then I can simply take one of these, like the page browser I know is to navigate to another page, so I'll take that up here. The resource browser, let's say I get this one wrong, I'm going to say activate a class question. Notice that it pops back over there. At this point, I'm going to stop playing and let's embed this onto a flipchart page. So I'm going to say Edit, and from the Edit screen, I'm now able to say Add to the page. And at this point, I can simply close out of this and also close out of the browser. And now that I'm back in the flipchart, this is how it's going to look on the flipchart page. When we get to this page, I can press this button. See, it's coming to life, and it's going to open this up. And now, if I wanted to, I could play this as a full screen game. In addition to being able to embed these activities and play them right in a flipchart, you can also send these activities to students. They are standalone activity files. They will be listed as the name of the file .activity. So the big thing here is to find them. In the PC world, notice the location of where these are going to be saved. So they're going to be in your documents. They're going to be under Active Software, ActivInspire, and My Resources. And under My Resources, you have several items, which includes My Activities. If you can locate one of these files, you can email them directly to your students, and they can play them individually. As a quick summary, in this video, we looked at several ways to create interactive activities with our students. Number 1, we looked at creating a container activity with one specific object. To do that, we specify the correct response. Then we looked at a container that would contain 2 or more specific objects or correct answers, and that's by using the keywords. And then finally, we took a look at how you can create interactive class activities, the activities right from the dashboard in ActivInspire, and then we can save them, we can embed them within the flipchart page, we can even send them to our students. At our next in-person class, we'll highlight and summarize these steps again, and we'll have some time to practice it, and then we'll have some lab time to complete an assignment.